Woo! All right. Well, that was fun. Sorry about that, guys. We just spent I just spent the past like 20 minutes trying to figure out what was going on with my stream. My stream was broke. Wasn't working. So give me a moment here. I'm just making sure that I set up everything for my chat and everything else so I can talk to you guys and know what's going on. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the stream. Starting a little bit late here. Just making sure I'm getting this set up. And I think Kyle is helping set up the Facebook link real quick here. Let me just make sure we're good over there. I might need to restart the stream real fast, but welcome everybody that is joining us. We'll be starting here in just a moment, making sure that we are good to go here. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing tonight. Just making sure that I'm all set here real quick. We are going to be sculpting a mannequin, or what is maybe more commonly known as a blockout. Blocking out your character. A little bit like what I have here on the sides for these two characters. It looks like I'm all good. Kyle's just setting up something real quick. But the doggo here in the middle, obviously not a blockout. This is actually something that I sculpted that was going to be, or is going to be, don't tell anybody, but it's going to be a Christmas gift, an ornament. Hence why the hat is kind of lopsided, and essentially what I've done is set this up in such a way that if I were to tie a ribbon around the hat, that we would be able to draw a plumb line through here, get the character weighted pretty evenly, and then be able to hang it from a tree. The way it is right now, you might even be able to hang it from a tree just with the hat alone. Really, I'm not too sure. I'm going to be ordering a print here soon, and I'll show it off here on stream once I have it. Or maybe not, because my sister peeks in here from time to time. I don't want her to see what's going on. Like I said, we are going to be sculpting some mannequins or some blockouts for some characters, similar to what you're seeing on screen right now. This is one that I sculpted a couple nights ago, or I can't remember. I might have done this one last night. I've been sculpting a lot. It's not my fault. It all runs together. So we're going to be sculpting something similar to this, obviously, you know, big buff dude, and I'll be talking a lot about what's so important about this phase and why we want to take our time in this phase for blocking out your character, or, you know, really whatever you're working on. I'm going to be talking more specifically about stylized characters, exaggerated forms, a lot of what we're seeing here. And this is one that I made on my stream earlier today over on my channel, which is just twitch.tv/Follygon. There should be a link somewhere here at the top of the screen that you can see on the stream. But yeah, a little bit of an older lady. I just blocked her out with her clothes on, everything else. But yeah, we're going to be doing a brand new one of these. Let me find my reference image. I plan on blocking out this guy over here, who I believe is Android 17. I believe 18 is the female, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, doing a block out for this dude, a little bit more lanky. We're going to be focusing all on, you know, big shapes, big primary forms, and I'll be talking a little bit about some of those fundamental characteristics that we want to focus on while we're doing that. So let me set this scene up, make sure that we're good to go. Make this a polymesh 3D. I'm going to turn off perspective. I don't like to start with perspective on, and I would also like to import that image if I can. And we're going to be using Spotlight to line this up, which is just the built-in, well, it's not always used for references. I don't think it was originally meant to be used as a reference image plane. That's what I use it for. You can also use it to project polypaint and project form onto your sculpt, whatever you're sculpting. So some important notes, some important information about what we're going to be doing here. This guy is already posed, so I'm going to have to take that into consideration. I'm not going to be able to line up everything perfectly. There's some perspective warping going on here and everything else. But other than that, we're going to try blocking this out as best as we can. And cool. Alright, 1 second here. Let me just make sure that this is working. Alright, cool. And let me pull my chat back up. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Type something in chat, say hello, and let's go ahead and get started. Again, what we're going to be doing tonight, for those that are just joining us, I see that more and more people are joining us now. Welcome, everybody. We are going to be blocking out a character. Be sculpting a mannequin. There's a lot of different names for it. I just kind of call it a character block out. Here's one of those. And here's the other one. More of a big muscly dude and an old lady. But yeah, a little bit more along this style. So let's go ahead and grab our sphere. This is the poly mesh, I believe. Yes. And let's go ahead and dive in here. One of the things that I like to do is turn on my timeline. The timeline allows you to essentially put points on your little timeline up here and then save them as positional and scale data. So if I move this around and change it, I can always get that position back in place. There are a few other ways you can do stuff like this in your document. You can save your Z app link, different views and everything else, which is another popular method. I just like the timeline. It allows me to, just very quickly, it's up here on the UI. I don't know, I just like it. So let's go ahead and block this bad boy out. Starting with the sphere, obviously, I'm just gonna use my move brush and start moving some of this geometry around. Another thing that I might do during this stage is keep this shape extremely low poly. I'll be mentioning this throughout, our process. It's not that I need it to be extremely low resolution. It's more so that I need it to be in such a way, like I need it to be a resolution to where I'm not going to get in there and make some form that isn't really necessary at this stage. What I mean by that is creating anything that's not going to affect our major silhouette forms. So most of what I want to focus in on is just these big shapes. If we kind of look at an infill black color, I don't want to add anything that's not going to change this shape. And I want to spend all this time focusing on just this. Welcome BMS Nuclear, welcome back I should say, from my stream. How are you doing, buddy? And Ryan Turner and Marquise. Hello everybody, welcome. Glad you can hear me. And let's continue blocking this guy out. So during this phase, before you start worrying too much about proportions, what I typically encourage people to do is focus just simply on getting everything in. And what that means is, just making sure that you have all the parts and pieces in there, all the geometry. And I'm using the reference image to help, line up and scale some of this. And we'll look at the side view here in just a moment. I'm essentially just duplicating a sphere that I've already made and then moving it off to one side here for this leg. And we'll just kind of pull this down, grow it out real long. It's got big old long legs. It's like Slender Man over here. Mirror and weld that over to the other side. And typically during this stage, I'll focus on just the main portions of the body, not worrying about the arms just yet. It's more secondary. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Let's get our head up top as well. Just start getting all this geometry in there. Can't really start worrying about proportions until we have something to proportion them against. Just make sure that we're getting that around the roughly the same size. And then we can start getting in here and worrying about, thickness for all these and all that. At this point, it's all very, very low res. What I recommend doing, again, either using Dynamesh to get a really low res piece, something like this, something where you're not going to worry about size and scale too much, or you're not going to worry about getting too much detail in there too early, or just grabbing your ZRemesh. All of this, of course, is located in your geometry palette under ZRemesh and Dynamesh. Z-remesh really low for this shape. We'll do the same thing down here for this shape. And here we go. Boom. Easy peasy. We'll start moving some stuff around, mainly using, you guessed it, our move brush. Crazy, I know. Bamboozers, welcome. And Pamela, how are you guys all doing? Lycos, just watching your critiques. Awesome. Well, I hope they've been helpful for you. Uganda Knuckles, welcome to the stream. I never thought I'd see the day where Uganda Knuckles watched my stream. Injin, welcome. Labassi, welcome back. Hello, everybody. Dragon Ball fan. I am also a Dragon Ball fan. I have one or two of the original mangas up in my closet behind me in Japanese from when I visited Tokyo. So, what's next? Let's start moving, pushing, pulling, getting more of this kind of, let's see if I can increase that opacity a little bit more. Get a little bit more of this taper down into the waist for the hips. If I can select that, kind of just focus on rounding these out, planing them off. And if it's a little hard to see, just let me know and I'll hide this image while I'm doing some of this stuff. I'll kind of toggle it on and off as we go. But I still want that there just to be able to line some stuff up, figure out the basic height for our waist here. And I'll be pinching in there. Now, remember, like I said, it's going to be a little tough to line up some of this stuff perfectly. And if you've ever done anything like this, I'm sure you've come across this before as well. But when you're working off of, something where you only have one image and the character happens to be posed, you're going to run into a lot of issues there. So just take your time, study the image, study the concept. If you have to, jump on over to Photoshop or something and do a paint over just to figure out some of those shapes a little bit better. I find that to be very helpful oftentimes. Yeah. Let's see, I'm just, again, using my move brush, keeping things very low poly, and yeah. Where are our legs at? Our legs, like I said, are extremely long. Typically during this stage, I'm not going to put a lot of time or effort into the hands and feet, especially if you're someone that has hand models that they can import. If we take a look at this guy here, for this, what I did was I just, created a cube. I haven't even added subdivs to this. I just have a dynamic, and I need to turn that back on, a dynamic subdiv or smooth mod. It's essentially the same thing. So very simple for the feet, right? And then for the hands, I literally took like 3 cubes, and you can still see the polygroups from them, and I just merged them all together and dynameshed them, and just very quickly went over them with my smooth brush. Just something really quick, really simple. So we're not going to spend too long on that kind of stuff. Well, let's see. He's got some crazy legs, doesn't he? They're all over the place. All sorts of wiggle room, but I like it. I'm also noticing, you know what, I was going to say maybe a little bit of taper here. Maybe a slight bit. We'll try to get some of that in. Try to thicken up the legs some more, up towards the top. And I'll put in some kind of base down there for the feet as well. My pen is a little broken right now, so it's kind of hard for me to use. I'm trying to do my best here. Let's see. Compressor, welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a good day. How's it going? Let's see. We'll realign this back up. I think I'm just going to make the torso a tad shorter based on what I'm seeing here in perspective. And then I'm going to give him a neck, and then we'll give him some feet and continue on from there. I would recommend really focusing in on this major line of action from head down to toe first before you start putting in any arms or you start getting too, what would be the word? I'm not sure, but just kind of too ahead of yourself on a lot of this stuff. Don't be too worried about it. This stage is so important that I believe that you shouldn't really rush it. You should try to take your time. I think your work will be a lot better off for it. And that's kind of the key thing that I want to focus on during this time, during our time together today. So hopefully we'll be able to drive that home by the end of our time together. Grab our cylinder that I just initialized, and I'm going to use this to make our neck. And I'm just going to crease all of that very quickly. Let's see, in terms of scale for our neck, we want to scale that up quite a bit. Whoops. And it's okay if it's, bleeding through some of our geometry. That's not a problem. The next thing I want to do is start focusing on the profile as well, because obviously we don't have a very good profile image of this character, so I either have to go and grab some additional references or infer a lot of information about this character based on what I can see. And I'm going to try to infer as much as I can from this. We might grab some more reference later on, but we'll just kind of see how it goes. Keep this, like I said, as simple as we can for as long as we can, and go from there. And this is the exact same process that we went through over on my stream earlier today when I was working on that old lady. This one here. And you know what? I'll put her, she can be our guardian angel watching over us. And Big Buff Boy can hang out too. So we really want to focus on these simplistic forms. And a lot of the time, I do have some subdivs in here. I'm mainly using those to control the form and kind of help me out a little bit. But I recommend, if you're new to doing blockouts, new to this kind of stuff, just keep it as low poly as you possibly can. Let's continue on here. Whoops. I like to use some of my sculpting brushes on some of this stuff just to get the surface to turn in a specific direction or whatever it may be. And I want a lot more of a flat up here. Translating. Whoops, what's going on? Of course. We'll have to get our friends back over on the side. So I'm going to shift this edge up, just like that. Just get a lot more tight. Nice and simple. And very quickly, I'll insert some cubes down on the feet. We'll initialize 1, 1, 1 across the board. Q cube. Really quick, let me just check on something. Alright, cool. And where did our cube go? There he is. Move him down to the foot. Turn off transparency. And let's stretch this guy out. Let's see, what do we got going on here? Relatively simple shape. For something like that, I would probably go to Z Modeler, insert a poly loop or two. Start pulling out that shape a little bit more. I'm just pressing the D key on my keyboard. It's the hotkey to see what it looks like with a dynamic subdivision on it, on your geometry. I'm going to crease the bottom edge. And if I do anything too fast, please just let me know. And I'd be happy to explain anything that I do. Am I going to finish this project today? Hopefully we'll be able to finish the blockout today. We are focusing in on a blockout though. That is what the entire purpose of this will be. It's incredibly important. It's the most important part. I don't know if I've said this during this stream or not. I was talking about it a little bit earlier today, but it is in my opinion, it's the most important part of your character. I'm sure you've all heard the saying, you can't polish a turd. Well, that definitely applies here. If you have a situation where you rush ahead and you don't spend enough time on those earlier shapes, making sure that you're making everything nice and clean, well, guess what? Later on, you're either going to have to rework a ton of stuff, or it's just going to end up looking like butt. We don't want it to look like butt. We want it to look good. Well, at least I want it to look good. So we'll take the time to do some of that. So I'm just kind of poly modeling this stuff around. Really nothing crazy, just kind of shifting some verts. Trying to make something a little bit closer to what I'm seeing in our concept shoe there. I can probably make this quite a bit pointier. So maybe we can stretch those out. And just kind of see what that's looking like. Let's leave that down there for a little bit and give a little love to our legs and get an idea of what's going on here. So I think let's kind of line that back up here. Definitely want our shoe to be larger, don't we? Maybe even, or you know what, maybe just kind of shifting that around. We'll see. And when I'm doing this, I don't have perspective on just because I want to gauge how this is looking without all that going on. All that confusion. I'm just gonna line up some stuff here with my leg. Whoops. And by the way, for this, if I have not explained yet, the way I'm kind of toggling on and off, toggling on and off between all my subtools really quick is the solo mode down here. I just have that set to a hotkey, which is G, just to make it a little bit faster for me. If you have not set up that hotkey, I highly recommend it. All right, so let me get those subdos back really quick. Alright, so I'm just going to start pulling in from what I'm seeing in the silhouette, right around where the knee is. I think, based on what I'm seeing, we're going to have a little bit of some curve on that top portion of the leg. What do you call that? The thigh. We'll get some of that going on. And it looks like the calves are getting pretty thick down here. So I'll probably do some inflation down here. Kind of mask that off. Let's see. And go down into our deformation palette, and inflate that a little bit. I do Throck Hammer. I do have my own sculpting stream. I stream every day, every single day, except for Sunday, at noon Eastern Standard US time. And I stream over on twitch.tv/Follygon with an underscore at the end of it. It's somewhere where I'm waving my mouse around at the top of the screen. Hopefully you guys can see that. Should be up there. I don't have the stream pulled up though, so I'm not actively checking it. I need to pull my image back up over here though. All right, so we've done some very simple curves here to the leg. I've done some pretty exaggerated curves here from the side, just because based on the concept, based on what I'm seeing, I think that's going to be pretty prominent. Let's go through here up top on the body, and I'm going to start adjusting our shirt based on what I'm seeing in the concept as well. So I'm going to be blocking this character out with the clothes that he is wearing. If you wanted to block this out, as a base, as a human without clothes, you could do that. But at least for this, it's not going to be something that's ever seen, or at least for what I would be doing, not something that would be seen without that shirt. Maybe we could do like a little body under here as well, if you guys would like to see that. Keep it real simple. I think I would prefer to do the shirt the way it is here, at least try to capture these major forms, more so because it will look more like this guy once we start blocking a lot of that stuff out. So that's my vote. It's gonna be my preference. I do have some examples of sculpting bodies though, in more of a stylized style appeal. Over on my YouTube channel, it's just youtube.com/Follygon. I have a ton of streams and stuff that have been uploaded there, videos, tutorials, all sorts of goodies. I'm gonna start working on this from the profile. And let's see here. Do you go insane doing the same thing day after day after day after day? I don't, you know, it's just like, I mean, that's like any other job. Probably a little insane, right? But I like sculpting. It's kind of why I do it. But I don't know. I'm sure there are people that sculpt for a living that kind of hate it. Not I. Not yet. I'll give it a decade or two. All right, let's res this down quite a bit. Stop worrying about some of that geometry getting in the way. So one thing I like to do when working on these blockouts and just sculpting in general is what I call kind of merging a buck. It essentially helps you transition certain areas. So I've kind of blocked out the waist and blocked out the legs here, but I would eventually like to merge these together. Maybe not now, but at least maybe start getting some of that form together. So one way that I like doing that is taking something, if I'm, you know, wanting to shape up this waist a little bit more to form fit into the legs and get everything flowing together. One way that I can do that is by duplicating, or you know what, duplicating the legs and then temporarily merging them into this waist piece. Then from there, just kind of dynameshing that, and then I'll have the ability to kind of start transitioning these. And I still have the legs separate if I need to roll back to those, and I'm sure I will. I'd like to keep things nice and separated, cleaned up, but at least for now, you know, I can start working on transitioning this area a little bit better than what we had previously. What brush did I use on the waist? A number of brushes, all listed down here. For the most part, probably the first 5. Pinch brush to get these tight edges, you know, trim certain geometry, clay tubes. I don't really use the standard brush for sculpting though, so, you know, first 5 minus standard probably. But you can do these types of shapes with, you know, literally 1,000 different brushes. I mean, you don't have to use what I'm using. Let's start blending these a little bit more. And you know what? This is just too high poly. Way too high poly for what we're trying to accomplish. We want something low. Something that's easy to work with. That we can just sit here and clean up real quick. What's going on, Spectre Dave? Welcome back. And what pen tab are you using? Asks Harisha. Normally I would say my gear is listed below over on my stream, but I believe this is the 27-inch Cintiq, which I don't think they make anymore. or at least they don't make new ones. They do still sell them on their website, I believe. The Stifler, what's going on? A little loud for me. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. All right. So I actually will just go ahead and delete the legs that I duplicated before, blending those in. It's nice to have a little bit of a backup plan if something goes haywire, you mess a bunch of stuff up. So once we get a little bit further into this, I'll start talking about some of what I think are the most important things that you need to focus on during the stage. What I would call the fundamentals of, just good character design in general. We'll wait a little bit before talking about too many of those. Let's see. Got a very sharp face. I would also highly encourage you during the stage, when you're blocking out, for your head shape, try not to get too far ahead of yourself. Whoa, that's a little insectoid, isn't it? Try not to get too far ahead of yourself. You can block out some of this, but really try to keep everything around the same level. What I would recommend is that, if you're in this stage, you're going through blockout, just try to keep it as simple as you can that retains that main shape. What I'm doing right now is just, blocking out where well, actually, I don't even, I'm not even going to do that much. I was going to say, like, where the chin would be and all that other stuff. I'm just going to do a really, really basic shape here. And we'll fix all that. And go very low poly, please. Make sure the scale is appropriate. Let's go Zeri Mesh, very low. And just something, like I said, very low poly. Get it into position and focus more on that after you start getting everything up to the same level. So like I said, you definitely want to be focusing in on the main line of the body of the character. It's the most important part for capturing its likeness. In terms of what would you call it? The line of action of the character. And I mentioned this earlier. I'll do so again here. Where's my browser? So line of action, if you're not familiar with it, is something that you're going to see a lot in posing. It's something, let me find the example that I had before. Those aren't the ones I want. Where'd they go? This will work just fine because it's a stylized little mouse. That looks like Tom the cat, maybe. I don't know. But the line of action, that line flowing through the pose of your character, flowing all the way around, even out the newspaper or whatever he's holding there. Hopefully, I can find a little bit of a larger image here. This is a perfect example. Kind of flowing all the way here through this punch, right? And then we got this other cat, he's getting punched in the face, and this entire line is flowing through this entire pose. If we were to erase that line, just looking at the pose of the silhouette, if we look at this left side of the cat, it's a pretty simple silhouette, and it kind of follows with that line of action. Typically in a character's pose, this is very common. You'll see something where you'll have a more simple side and a more complex side, and that more simple side will very often follow that line of action pretty much to a T, which that is a pretty good example of. This is also applicable in something like this, where you have just a neutral character. You still have that line of action. And for a really good example, I'll hide the arms of my character so you can see the body here. And if you look at this guy, he is extremely tapered, right? And he's got this nice straight line running all the way from the point of his chest all the way down to his ankles, all the way down to his feet. And it's just a really simple line flowing all the way through it. And what that line does is it makes it look like he's standing up, puffing out his chest. He's, obviously a big buff guy, and it's helping that character read a lot better from the silhouette. It's getting that exaggerated big guy feel. So in this character, we're gonna be, we got a lot of curves going on in the legs, and we're gonna try to find where we can help and work with this silhouette as best as we can, but we're gonna have to, I think, continue cleaning some stuff up here as we move forward. And we will eventually get to a point where we start looking at some of that a little bit more. Based on what I'm seeing, we could probably, I don't know, get a little bit more straight here in the legs. Maybe get a little bit more volume coming down this way. And then for the knee, probably have like a little bit of a hit. He is wearing jeans. So let's see. And remember, we don't want anything in our silhouette, or we don't want any marks on our surface that do not affect our silhouette. That is our primary concern, primary focus. So I'm trying to get a nice flow, nice curve down to here, up to the knee, and then have this point in our surface be where things start to change direction a little bit more. And that's where we can start maybe talking about tapered shapes, which we have quite a bit going on here in our lower legs. He's got some pretty thick legs, but I like it. I like the style that we're getting here. Let's try to push that even a little bit further, maybe. He's also got these little leg warmers going on, which we'll try to get in. Did Android 17 have leg warmers in the anime? That is a great question. Nuage, welcome to the stream. How you guys doing? And I'll also mention, don't feel like you have to wait till I'm working on a specific thing to ask a question, or a specific question that you guys might have. I will jump around if need be. Let's go ahead and block out our arms next. I think I'll just append a quick sphere. Just kind of drop this over on the armhole, right around the deltoid or so. Start figuring out where we want that to go for the scale of that and everything else. Again, we're working with a pose, so it's a little tough, right? If you've ever done anything like this. Oh, you know what? I'm actually going to use a cylinder for this because this is such a specific shape here. If we look at that basic shape there. Normally I would use an upper arm with a sphere. I think a cylinder is going to be just so much better for something like this. So I do have a creased cylinder here that I can import, and I'll do that. Southern Cross, what's going on? Welcome. Welcome. How is everybody doing tonight? Anybody working on anything cool? If you guys are working on your own stuff, I'd love to check it out. If you guys want to post it in the chat there, I'd love to take a gander. Or if you guys got, whoa, that got all messed up. Just trying to make this a little bit straight here. But yeah, show me what you got. Let's see what you guys are working on. So very simple shape, just a cylinder. And I'm just kind of moving it into position. Nothing too crazy here. move, scale, rotate, all that really basic stuff. We'll have to play around with this area quite a bit as we progress and move forward. But let's go ahead and just pull out a quick arm next. Does the Pixelogic stream allow links? I believe so. That's why I was suggesting that you guys share whatever you're working on. I'd love to check it out. You should be able to post a link. Psych! Got you banned. No. I'm just messing with you. Character, but just mental concept for a new idea. The prior sculpt I can show. Character. Oh, you're working on the kind of pre-phase. I gotcha. Very cool. Yes, just making sure you're good. Well, what is the pre-concept, RD? What does the beginning stages look like? What do we got going on? So again, you know, just another sphere, really simple. Get that into position. Make sure that it's following that basic shape. I will probably make that a little bit more straight. And then just kind of pull up some rough geometry into here very quick to represent the rest of that arm. Very quick, very easy. And you know, we're still in this very rough stage, very early, but I say this all the time, it's not a race, and the more time that you spend in this earlier stage, I think the better off you will be for it. I highly encourage people to really just take their time during these early stages of blocking out. I think it can help a lot. And I think the more time that you spend in the stage, the better off your character will, of course, be moving forward from here. It's kind of like baking. If you, for something like this, you know, or really for modeling anything, I would say, if you mess up the earlier stages and then you just, maybe you get all the rest of it perfect, that still base stage of whatever you were making is still screwed up, and no amount of, you know, other stuff that you do on top of it, no amount of textures, no amount of cool materials or rendering effects that you do post-processing, none of it's going to save these bad primary forms. So take your time. Oops. Newer concept is about clean shaped character like these, but stylized blocking with this technique. And stylized blocking with this technique. Very cool. Yes, can't polish a turd. That's correct. Do a quick Dynamesh on this. This is where, whoops, thought that was my pinch brush. If I can grab that. Do a quick pinch around the bow. Oh my goodness, keep doing that, don't I? Quick pinch around the elbow. Maybe a quick little plane change there. And as we come down to the forearm here, as that shape comes down, we're starting to get some taper here. Thinking about thick to thin. It's good to keep all that in mind as we keep going forward. So if I haven't mentioned already, thick to thin is something that we definitely want to keep in mind while working on our nice, clean, stylized characters. Thick to thin is just the concept of a tapered object or a tapered shape. You're not going to see any parallels in nature, so anytime we have a parallel, it's typically going to feel very unnatural. You should pretty much, I would say, always avoid parallels unless it's specifically adding something to your character or to your object, whatever you're sculpting, right? I would try to avoid them altogether though, unless it adds to the design. Sneeman, let's see, what do we got, Sneeman? Sneeman is working on a little cafe with a little Wolfie boy. I like it, very cool. Also, I love the blue. I love the blue in the UI. Got all sorts of pastries down here. Very cool. I like it a lot. I see a lot of pros sketching in Dynamesh, the polishing and cleaning all, but I have a very hard time with this way. You know, I jump back and forth between Dynamesh and ZBrush, just kind of willy-nilly as I see fit. I don't really stick in one or the other. That process definitely becomes easier over time. It's maybe a little bit harder to get some of that down the way you might want in the beginning. So you know, I don't know where you are in your current abilities, but you know, maybe I think the answer to a lot of those kinds of questions are just mileage. Like, hey, I'm trying to use this tool and I'm not getting the results I'm seeing other people get. A lot of the time the answer to that question is just very simply, you got to do it more, you got to practice more. You will figure it out with time. It takes a very long time to get good at the sculpting. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious, but ZBrush is not, you know, it's not like learning other software to a pretty large degree where you learn the software and then you're good to go. It's definitely a situation more like learning how to paint or draw in like Photoshop or something. Sure, you can learn how to use Photoshop, but I'm great at using Photoshop. That doesn't mean I'm a great 2D artist. Like, you can know how to use the tool and still not know how to do the art side of the thing. It just takes time. It really does. And I'm sure you know and understand that. Alright. Kind of want to round out that tight curve that I put in there. Oops. Actually turned off Dynamesh and then tried to Dynamesh. Silly of me. Let's see. Let's focus in on the inner edge here. Doing more of a straight on the inner portion of the leg and a little bit more curvy. Well, actually, let's kind of swap that up here. Change the way that's working. So straights versus curves is another one of those kind of early just fundamentals that we want to keep in mind while we're sculpting and working on our character. The basic idea here is to have not exactly a straight versus a curve, but a more interesting side versus a less interesting side. So for the silhouette of our leg, I'm making the inner plane a little bit more straight, and then the outside plane have a little bit more of a curve to it. Now, like I said, this isn't like a hard and fast rule of something that you should always do, but it's more so something that you'll see very often in character design in general. Let's see. If we look in here really quick, see this leg? This is a great example of tapered shapes that we were talking about before. If we look at the just huge silhouette here of this character, talking about straights versus curves, you know, this side of the silhouette in general is pretty simplistic. It follows that curve pretty well, whereas this side, you know, it's got this leg and this hand sticking out, and then the head with the ears pointing out on this side. So the silhouette on this right side of this cat is a lot more complicated. So not necessarily always straight versus curve, but simple versus complex is maybe another way to think about that. And I'm going to do a little trick here around my knee by adding a slice curve through it. I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do for the back of this leg. But this is something that, you know, I'm showing you guys this example from the front. This is also something that happens or has to happen for the shape to read as the same shape from every single angle. So as I rotate around the character, I have to make sure that that is very much feeling like the same shape. So to do that, this slice here, I'm using that as a little trick with keep groups on, which is just going to inform ZRemesher that I want it to put an edge loop around where that knee is. We'll give that just a moment here. And then what I'm going to do is actually use my Z modeler brush and delete just a few of these edges where some of this form just, yeah, it's just a little bit too complex for what we need. So I'm just gonna manually delete a few of those. I can just, you know, maybe remesh this even a little bit lower, but I'm just gonna do this really quick so we can move on. And some of these aren't perfect edge loops, which is fine for what we got, but let's get back down here to the leg. So I'm really focusing on, you know, this inner portion of the leg being a little bit more straight, outside of the leg being a little bit more rounded in the silhouette. I want to make sure that that's reading well all the way through here. And up here towards the top, I'm going to round out this inner portion of the leg. Rotate around, make sure this is reading nicely as well. And I think I'm just going to try making this a little bit more straight on the backside there, and a little bit more straight coming down from here as well. And on the outside edge, pretty much I want just like a straight from the waist down, or at least a moderate straight, pretty close to a straight. We'll continue working on this shape as it flows up here into the waist. And I hope I'm getting through the idea of just, you know, staying in these simple shapes for as long as we can. Really working on thinking about some of these shapes really hard, I guess. Let me do a quick slice down here. So see how that leg is looking in terms of matching up. I could maybe make the top portion of it a little bit skinnier, but the bottom portion is pretty close to where I want it. I am slicing off a piece of geometry down here so that I can turn this into the leg warmer. And I'll just work on, whoops, one side at a time. And let's see. Let's see. Came from traditional clay sculpting. I am at the point where I can capture likenesses or form in ZBrush like I do in clay, but I need more skill to finish my work. Well, cool. I love talking to traditional sculptors, hearing what they think of sculpting digitally. I can't imagine sculpting traditionally. Well, I can because I've done it more than a few times, but I couldn't imagine doing that professionally. That sounds slow and tedious and not like a lot of fun. And if you guys think that I spend a lot of time in my blockout phase, which I think I do, I try to, compared to working with like clay or wax, it's an even longer, more tedious process. Let's see. So I'm getting a little bit of taper on this shape. I always think your lessons are pretty clear. Well, thank you. I'm excited to see you pose the model. It's definitely what I have the most issues with when I am working. Same here, says Lamentio. I doubt we'll have enough time to go into posing tonight for something like this. Remember, our key objective is to really focus in here on the block out. I do have some, or I have a ton of stuff over on my YouTube channel. It's just YouTube, or it's not even showing it. It's just youtube.com/Follygon or Google Follygon and you'll find it. I have over 300 videos, over 400 videos now. I don't know. Live streams, actual tutorials, stuff for posing, all sorts of great stuff. I'm sure there's, like I said, we're not going to have enough time to go into that tonight for sure. But there's maybe some resources on there that you can grab a little bit more quickly. And that's the whole reason that I have that. Getting a little bit of spiraling. Not sure why, but that's okay. You know what? Actually, let's scale this in quite a bit more. And this is for that little, what's going to be that leg warmer after we start blocking that in a little bit more. So what we're looking at, very simple shapes, right? Not spending a whole time or a whole lot of time focusing in. I'm not thinking about folds right now. I'm not thinking about sculpting in any lines on any of this. Like, I'm not thinking about any of these secondary forms in the pants. All we're focusing on is these big primary shapes. At this stage, I would like to go into Transpose Master for a moment. Transpose Master is up in your Z plugin. It allows you to work on all your stuff at once. And the subdivs and smooths don't come through, unfortunately, but that's alright. We'll be able to work on this just fine. What I would like to do is get a little bit more of this line of action, right, that we talked about earlier, flowing all the way up through our character, because up here it starts to feel, you know, pretty flat. So let's do a little bit of that. Grab the whole body. And I'm just gonna put my pivot somewhere around here. Start rotating this back. And grab our pants. Start sliding that forward some more. Grab our head and, whoops, basic neck that we got in place. All simple, right? And really start trying to figure out the curve that we got going on here. Feels still a little off balance, so I'd like to maybe push that back a little bit more. I don't know. Let's just do a quick slide. Head back into T-pose. And it didn't really look like it changed that much because I was looking at it from the front, and that's my bad. But we did see here, back and forth between those two. Where'd he go? So just kind of rocking that back, trying to get a little bit more of that flow through the entire body. And we'll continue to do stuff like that as we move forward. Did I go straight into ZBrush? Pretty much, yes. Once I was like serious mode. A little bit in some other programs before that, but like very, very, very minor. No undo in clay, that's true. Undo is actually the feature that is not that big of a deal. Like if there wasn't undo in ZBrush, I wouldn't be that heartbroken. There are a lot other things that I really care about though, a lot more. Symmetry is, yes, definitely one of them, right? Making sure that we got a simple shape here for our head. I'm just kind of cleaning that up a tad. And I think for the neck, I could kind of blend that in a little bit. I'll wait to do that. I don't really need to merge anything together right now. Like I said, not in a hurry. Alright, for our shirt, I actually want to get rid of this crease in here that I originally put to help figure out that form. Let's just run a quick Z-remesh, simplify that down, and I'm going to use move back face, thicken up the shoulders. How long have I used ZBrush? For going on 5 years now almost. But you know, that's a really bad, I don't like that question because it's a really bad indicator of someone's skill, someone's ability. Just because I used ZBrush for 5 years, you know, that could mean that I only used it once every month for 5 years. Or it could mean that I used it every single day, all day for 5 years. You know, that's not time in terms of years and stuff like that is not a good indicator of really anything other than how long ago did you start using ZBrush. That's why I don't really like that question too much. I also don't like the question, what tablet are you using? Which I've seen 3 times now since I started streaming. I use a big fat Cintiq, for those wondering. Big fat Cintiq. No, it does not make me sculpt better. I wish it did. Then I'd be so good at sculpting. Let's see. So in our shirt, I think where that hit is right there, I think that's just a little bit too high. So let's shift that down a little bit. Trying to get more of that triangular taper. He's definitely feeling, you know, like a lanky boy. We got a lot of work to do here though to get this feeling more like the concept. No, I only use the auto sculpt feature when I'm not streaming. I don't want you guys to know my secrets. Also, there's my favorite ZBrush feature, which is the easy button. It is hidden in one of the menus. I will not tell you which. You're gonna have to dig for it yourself. Top secret stuff that a lot of people don't know about. But I cannot share my secrets. No, I'm just kidding. I pretty much, it's not, I don't hold any of my techniques or secrets close to me. Like, I'm fine with, you know, that's the reason, one of the main reasons that I stream is just to be able to hang out with you guys and share what I do know. Hopefully you guys learn some new stuff by hanging out and watching some stuff that I'm making. That's kind of the point. Unfortunately, slice brushes are not symmetrical, so I will have to mirror and weld after using... Oh, that was a terrible slice. Let's undo that. Or I've kind of aligned this terribly, actually. I take it back. It was a good slice. I just have all this misaligned. That's actually why I'm going to put a slice through this, because I want to remesh it. Keep groups, ZRemesh, 0.1. Get something small, something low poly, easy to work with. What I'll often do, again, is delete some edge loops to clean up some areas that don't need all that extra form. And for an area like this, I'll do a tight little bevel, and that will help retain the sharp edge on the outside for the elbow, and it'll also help retain the crease on that side. Now, I'm not just pushing and pulling stuff around randomly while I'm doing this. I'm trying to keep in some of those things that I've talked about already. A straight versus a curve on the other side, right? Trying to keep all of these things in mind while I'm working. Trying to offset some of this curve so we don't have these being parallel and identical from one side to the other. All things that are, you know, really important to keep in the back of your head. And the more you do this stuff, the more this just becomes kind of second nature, and you'll really pick up on it quick. You won't even, you'll think about it, and it's good to have the language to think about it, but it'll just kind of be in the back of your head on autopilot almost. A nice 3D scanner might have an auto sculpt feature. That's true, in a way. You're gonna need a very expensive 3D scanner. I've worked with 3D scan data, and I've worked with some really nice 3D scan data and some really crappy 3D scan data before. And no matter what, there's always quite a bit of cleanup that needs to happen. But yeah, you know, maybe in the future that'll just kind of go away completely. Alright, let's see how this is kind of shaping up here. None of this is really seen as it goes up into the arm, but I just want to get a little bit more volume for what would be, you know, the bicep and a little bit of the tricep here. I don't need a ton, because most of it's just kind of disappearing up in here. Maybe pull that up a little bit more. It's really not that big of a deal though. And we can also make this quite a bit more narrow down here. I'm going to delete those subdivs. I was going to adjust the form on that, but I'll do that in just a moment. Trying to create a clean shape here and get a little bit of this shoulder transition. If we look at this line here going up the sleeve, and then right about there we get a little bit of a turn in the surface. So I'll try to get that in place here a little bit, and once we merge these together it'll probably be a little bit easier to do something like that. So just all in a matter of time. But if you feel like, you know, I'm not going to sculpt that shape on top of here, I could probably like pull this up and get something similar. It's just, I think, going to be easier to do it on something like this. Press the space button to show only. Oh, you're pressing the spacebar button and it shows only the Z sub and Z add options. That is interesting. That's something that happens when you are in edit mode or something. It does not. Or when you have this. No, I don't know. I think that was a question. Maybe not. Maybe you're just telling me that I could use the spacebar. I use this menu all the time. I find it easier than going all the way up here. Plus it follows your mouse around, which is nice. I like that. RD Multimedia. Let's check this out. This is your prior character Dynamesh, fully Z remesh to reduce the file size. It's a Z tool. Well, I will hold off on downloading that right now, but I will definitely check that out later. Let me save that link. If you want to send me an image though, something that I can pull up really easily here on stream, that would be awesome. So we can check out, see what everybody's working on. For everybody else that's joining us tonight, welcome. If you guys are working on anything cool, feel free to shoot a link in chat. I'd love to check out what you guys are working on. See what's going on with you guys. Let's see here. That didn't really go the way I wanted. It did it. I'll just do this the Z modeler way. Split, point. And extrude that shape up and in. At least this way we can get like a super clean edge too. A little bit hard though, right? We don't want a super hard surface edge. So instead of having that creased, I will add a bevel there. Bevel edge loop complete. Keep that really tight. Do the same thing on the inner edge. And we have the makings of our sleeve here. I lost a lot of that volume and curve that I had in there originally though. So I'll have to get some of that back in here. And we'll play with that more. It's Minicoop, what's going on? Welcome back. I believe I recognize your name from the last stream here last Tuesday. Let's see, I think next I would like to get a little bit of this kind of hard transition cut off right there. So I was thinking I could just like chop off a piece of this or something. Something quick. Something like that, and then kind of work on that transitional area. Try and round that out a little bit more for the sleeve, where that would connect. Let's see. Nice model. How's your day? My day is going great. Stream number 2 already. Getting lots done. Just hanging out, working on something fun. This is, what's his name? 17? I always mix him up. The guy is Android 17, right? Somebody let me know in chat. I believe the guy is Android 17. So we're working on a block out, or what's more commonly, or also maybe not more commonly, but also known as a mannequin. I've already done a few of these over the past 2 days. Last night I did this quick little mannequin sculpt, which is kind of, you know, your typical stylized little buff dude. Skipped leg day, obviously, and you know, very, very swole, kind of like me. And then we also did earlier this morning on my my Twitch stream, I did an older lady, cute old lady, nice and round and plump, and a lot of fun to work on. So now we're working on Android 17, maybe, probably, and working on making a lanky boy. But we're still in those early stages. And the thing that I'm trying to drive home tonight for people is kind of how much time we want to spend in these early stages, and really just kind of hone in on those simple shapes, focus on getting a nice clean silhouette. And I'm trying to talk about a few of those different kind of fundamentals and principles that we want to keep in mind while doing all that. The guy is 17. Okay, that's what I thought. I wasn't positive though. It's been a while since the Cell saga, hasn't it? I was not allowed to watch Dragonball Z when I was a kid, but I did anyway. I was also not allowed to watch Samurai Jack, and for that one I used to sneak into my basement and watch it on the TV down there. The good old days. Sneaking to watch TV that we're not allowed. Is that supposed to be their age? Is that what that... I thought it was just like their number. Also, it's an Android, so maybe that's weirder in a different way. Oh, I'm sorry, Mini Coop. I just saw your message about saying you've never been here. Well, welcome. Glad you could join us. There was somebody else here last Tuesday with Mini Coop in their username. I find that it could be a pretty rare username. I don't know. I guess not. Mini Coops all day. Do you own a Mini Coop? That's the real question. I feel like you can't have that username without owning a Mini Coop, right? Let's go a little bit thinner here and just work on kind of how some of this is flowing together. Focus in on that simple stuff. I guess we could mirror our little leg warmer over, couldn't we? Since I haven't done that yet. What else do we want? We want the hands, but like I said, the hands are going to be kind of like the feet here, where it's just some simple geometry that we put in place. Start working out. Let's see. And just by the words in the URL, I can already tell that this is a risky click of the day, right? It's been a long time. What is this image from? Oh, this is... Oh, is this the guy from 300? Xerxes or whatever? No, maybe not. Obviously somebody did a beautiful job in paint. What is that guy's name? Who dat? Who dat from? Avi, not Krillin. Risky click of the day. Let's see. I wanted to correct some stuff here in the feet. Namely, whoops, that's the wrong thing. Insert poly loop. pulley loop. And I am going to use the Z modeler brush just to extrude some really quick legs here. Hopefully really quick. I just want that form to start going up into those leg warmers. So here's a quick little trick for you guys. If you are working with symmetry and you're working with scale, whether it's with the 3D Gizmo or the transpose tool, whatever you like using, if you're using scale with symmetry, it will scale along the x-axis. If you don't want that to happen, click this little local sim button over here, and then you can scale locally on that object. Very nice, quick little trick that you can toggle on and off very quickly. What local sim does is it looks at your geometry and it works on that. It creates a essentially a symmetry plane where you would, what is this? Why is that creased? It creates a symmetry plane based geometrically across the middle point there. That was weird. Don't know why that happened. Let's see, what else we got going on? We got a lot going on. Trying to kind of handle it piecemeal, jump around a lot. Like I said, for the hands, I would recommend doing something really simple at first, and then if you want to come back later and add more, I'm just going to do exactly what I did with my feet. Add a cube, and then just change its shape ever so slightly. Let's just pull in a little bit, let that quick save do its thing. Billy Zane is the actor, and he was from Tales. He was in Tales from the Crypt movie. Can't remember the others. It kind of looks like an Egyptian pharaoh or something. Isn't there like a... Not... I don't know. Rude Boy. Let's see. I think we got an image here as well. Try to load this up. Grab our little piggy boy. Rude Boy says, a dude I'm doing based on a concept by John Nevarez. Sounds familiar, that name. I can't remember off the top of my head. John's work. I don't think I know John, but everybody go check out some of John's work as well while we're pulling this up. I don't know much about form or fundamentals, unfortunately, and I reckon he's a bit bumpy. He is a bit bumpy. Oh, I'm sorry, there's the concept right there. Cool concept, yeah, very cool concept. I think you have some good stuff in here. I also think that you're kind of just lacking some of the fundamental shapes. What I would maybe try doing is a little bit of what I'm doing here, which is overlaying a shape or the reference image as best as you can. And then, like with the little pig head, or just, you know, whatever you're gonna use, whether it's the legs or whatever, try to line that up as best as you can. I know he's in a little bit of a pose, kind of like my character here, but try to figure out what those shapes are. Try to keep it really low poly. Grab your move brush and start pushing and pulling stuff around. I think that'll help you get some of those basic shapes a little bit faster, a little bit easier. It's from the... Oh, it is the guy from The Mummy. That's right. That is where I recognized it. Yes. I thought it was. I said like some Egyptian pharaoh something, didn't I? I thought I did at least. Maybe I didn't. I said it in my head if I didn't say it out loud. It's not my fault. I am going to continue just blocking in some of these shapes. Let's do a pretty large shape for the scarf. I think that'll help us figure out some of this stuff in here around the chest/torso. And that will also give us an opportunity to just like show how I would go about making something like this. In the earlier stages, I will probably, if I might wait to do something like this and do it later. I want to do it for the blockout phase, so I'm just going to use a quick sphere and then shape that up to the basic shape. Probably hollow it out later. Some dogs are going a little crazy outside. That's okay. Let's see. Yeah, absolutely. No problem, rude boy. You're not too rude. Alright, RD Multimedia. I can't remember what you said about this character. Prior character dynameshed fully and then Z-remeshed to reduce file size. So I think you're probably suffering from a lot of the same things that that Rude Boy is. Just kind of rushing ahead a little bit too fast in some of these shapes, especially in the face. Kind of looking at the body in terms of the silhouette. I don't know what your reference is, so I can't really speak to that too much. But I think you do have some good shapes in here. I would just maybe step it back a little bit in terms of resolution. I know you said you did this with Dynamesh, but if you look at stuff like this in the legs kind of flowing down here, it's really wavy, really bumpy, really quick. And it's not, it's not what we would see in a real human, but it's also not what we would see in a stylized character. We'd want to clean a lot of this stuff up. So I would recommend dropping that really low, much like I said for Rude Boy. And another, if you're trying to figure out those shapes, if I have this shape here in this arm, and let's just kind of dirty this up really quick, just so we can get a good example here. Get some waviness in the arm. If I got this shape here, and it's it's Dynameshed all together, if I want to fix this, if I want to really clean this up, I'm going to go down and Z-remesh this down to about 0.1. Extremely low, gives me a really low polygon count. I can maybe add a subdiv, very quickly clean this up, and already look how much cleaner that silhouette is starting to look. We're starting to get rid of all that bumpiness and really clean that up. So that's what I would recommend in terms of next steps if you're going to continue working on that. Or maybe just some advice for a future project. Whatever you're planning on next. That would be maybe some next steps there. Alright, let's go back up to our scarf. And let's just start pulling this shape down a little bit with our move brush. Pull out and around the neck here. Quick Dynamesh and a mask here. So there are a million ways to do everything in ZBrush. I'm just kind of blocking this shape out really quick for our scarf. Again, our focus here tonight, and I think a lot of people that have shown images or shared some images here. I think maybe some of what we're doing is a little timely, just to kind of get in that mindset of really staying low res, low poly, simple shapes, trying to stick as close to that reference as we can. I think that'll really help you guys out. Remember, if the, what was it? You can't polish a turd, right? If the base, that initial level is really bad, really warbly, really dirty, you're gonna have a lot of trouble trying to clean that stuff up. So try not to rush ahead too fast. Let me grab my image up again over here. So I could hollow this out later. I just kind of did this chunkily, really quick. Chunky scarf. Let's get an idea of what this is gonna look like. Let's probably pull in here. Kind of tapers out a little bit more than what I got going on. I'll have to figure out that back edge as well. Probably just pull that tighter. We'll figure that out as we go. Let's see. Newer project. Yeah, no problem. ZBrush beginner course was great. Brushes, UI stuff that comes with it. Well worth the $10. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the kind words. I'm glad it was able to help you out. Not that new, but it helped you out. It's good to go back to basics sometimes. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you were able to get a lot from that. I don't think have I shouted out my Gumroad during this stream? I don't want to sit here and shill my stuff, but if I have, I'm sorry, but Rude Boy's talking about my Quick Start ZBrush course. It's just on gumroad.com/Follygon. I'll just spread the love, share the link in the chat real quick for everybody. I have stuff on there for beginners, which is not necessarily beginners, even if you want a refresher course like Rude Boy was talking about. Quick Start course. Get you up and running in ZBrush as quick as possible. That's the whole reason I made it. I also have some stuff on here for more intermediate and advanced users. I have a ton of, brushes, base meshes, curve brushes, materials. I even have some more mannequins or base meshes, much like what I'm creating right now in ZBrush. Here are 5 of them that you can get for a single doll hair. Wow, amazing, crazy, great. So there's a few more of those mannequins just to kind of give you an idea of the direction that we're heading. These were a lot of fun to make. I made these 3 to 6 months ago. It's been a while. But yeah, check it all out, gumroad.com/Follygon. I would greatly appreciate it. Here's kind of where we are right now if you're just joining us for our base mannequin. We still got a long way to go, but we're really focusing on those, initial clean shapes. And for those that are maybe just joining us, here are a few other mannequins that I've created over the last 24 hours, actually less than that. I made this lady this morning, this old Oba-chan, grandma. Is Oba-chan, is that right? I don't know. And this muscle dude, old mannequin here, for him as well. But yes, now we're working on a lanky boy, as I've been calling him, or Android 17. I got it right that time. Let's kind of get a little bit tighter here in the pantaloons. Coming up here. Some of this stuff is a little bit harder to see, so I recommend either changing your material or moving your light around while you're sculpting. But there's definitely a sharper crease coming down here. And it might be a little hard for you guys to see, so I'll just kind of highlight it real quick. There's definitely a little bit more of a pinch coming down through there that I want to get rid of. It's kind of one of the reasons why I try to keep some of this stuff separated for a long time, because some of these forms can Sometimes it's good to flow some of this together, but other times, you know, I just don't want that form that it's giving me, and I gotta sculpt it out, get rid of it. I'm gonna do a little bit of that right now. It also looks like we're losing some volume back here in this leg. I'm gonna just do a quick cross section here. So yeah, so right about here it starts to flatten, right? We're pretty round, and then getting a little bit more ovoid there. So I'd like to pull some of that out. It's also going to help with just getting that inner roundness, right, that we were trying to get before, flowing this way. So that's also good. A little bit too pinched, that's okay. These, in general, I think are just too wide from the profile for our lanky boy legs. So I'll be kind of pulling those in a little bit. Someone asked earlier if sculpting all day, every day makes you go insane. No, but talking to yourself does. It also kills my throat. That's why I got all this water and I drink tea every day. How we doing on time? We're actually, I think, pretty close to the cutoff. But we started a little bit late, so we're gonna go a little bit later here tonight. I hope that you guys are okay with that. There's nobody else on the schedule for tonight. So I'm gonna keep going here. We'll keep doing some more stuff with our base mesh. But we do have the beginnings of what we're looking for. We have a lot of the kind of key pieces in place. We're starting to really focus in on the silhouette, really thinking about, what was it, tapered shapes was the first one that I talked about a little bit. Making sure that we're avoiding parallels, right? If we look at something like this, get a nice taper. We're also focusing on straights versus curves, or having a situation in which one side is a little bit more interesting in the silhouette than the other side. A little bit more, or I was trying to make it more visually apparent back here. We kind of lost some of that once I pulled in. That's my bad. We'll try to get some of that back in here for the front of the leg. So a little bit more curvy on this side, a little bit more straight up and down on this side. I'm going to do the same down here. Let me just draw a mask all the way through this. I'm using the mask lasso tool, by the way. I don't think I've mentioned it. It's one of my favorite brushes, favorite masking tools for sure. Good brush. To switch your masking tool, if you don't know, hold down Control, click up here, select one of the many masking brushes. To select select a new select brush, hold Control and Shift, and swap to a different select brush. There's the selection marquee or select rectangle, which is the default. I like the lasso tools. They're very fun to use, play with. You can make all sorts of crazy shapes, right? It's great. It's a good brush. Getting a little bit of an awkward transition here. I'm not really digging it. Let's see, what do we want to do here? Probably just get some more volume coming out from here. And let's see. So I'm getting tighter and tighter in this area, and that's going to be problematic just because if I Dynamesh or Boolean or do any kind of merging here, all that's going to fuse together. So a lot of the time if I'm working on a pair of legs that are really close to each other, or getting close to each other, I'll instead only work on one leg at a time. It just makes it a little bit easier. And let's see if I can do that. I'll check out your link here in just one moment, rude boy. Let me split that off. So I'm just going to instead, again, work on one leg and then delete the other. It's because they were getting really tight, really close together up here. And I know it's like, oh no, well you got rid of your old clean topology. It's like, it's not that big of a deal. I can get it back in 2 seconds. It's not hard, right? I just click a couple buttons and I can get back to essentially where I was. Not that I even really need to do that now because I already have most of the form here in the leg. So I'll probably just stick with the dynameshed piece, and if I need to get some more volume in here, which is what I was trying to do before the symmetry plane rudely got in the way. That dang symmetry line. This makes it much easier. Awkward area around the crotch is always a problem to deal with for you. Same thing with the edges of the ellipse. Watching you do that is very helpful. Yeah. When I'm actually sculpting mouths, I'll typically slice off from the corner of the mouth back and work on the lower jaw separately, just so that I can get inside and sculpt the inner portion of the mouth and the lips and everything else. It just makes it a lot easier. At least it does for me. Everybody, to each their own. But let me see here. Got like a little stone golem of some kind. He's got like a little forked tongue. Very Aztecian. I like him. He's very cool. Very neat. Oh, it's hard to tell without too much for reference for scale, but based on these pillars, I'm gonna guess that this is supposed to be humongous, huge, enormous, gargantuan. Gigantic. I don't know any more words for big. Oh, big. Alright. And of course, if we're going to do this, I kind of wanted to split this off also because the area around here, the transitional area, was not the shape that I wanted, and it's much easier to kind of like pinch that up by itself instead of the leg getting in the way. And the same thing back here, kind of just square it off. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to split this as well. Clean that up. Work on that area. And I've pinched this really tight, but I am going to soften and transition this. So if I wanted to remesh this, I would probably add like a quick slice or two. I don't know. Let's just remesh it without it. I don't know why it just gave us, oh. That polygon, or that poly group kind of screwed us up. That's all right. There we go, that's much more clean. Let's see, I want to get a little bit more roundness and volume towards the front here. Kind of sketch that in really quick. This is feeling really, really flat up here, I thought. Kind of same in the buttocks, So we'll round that out a little bit. Got like a very, very tall waist, doesn't he? And our arms are in the way. So this will be really easy to blend back in. If you want to check how it's looking with that other leg, all you have to do is do a quick mirror. See what that's looking like. I'm gonna make sure that I'm coming up to this tight crease, tight point up in the crotch. It is feeling a little bit too close to the X symmetry plane. So what I'll do really quick is make that a little bit easier to manipulate and then adjust that. And I'm gonna run a quick save. Real quick, yeah, actually. So one last time, I'm just gonna show these mannequins off and then I'm gonna delete them because I wanna do a quick save with my undo history. And I don't want all these extra files in there. That'll really bog the file down. So here's an older lady that I sculpted earlier today on my Twitch channel. I'm just gonna delete all. Here's the muscle boy that I did just last night. I'm gonna delete him too. And here is my sister's dog that I sculpted and set up for 3D printing today on my channel as well. Hollowed it out and everything. I have it uploaded on Shapeways and I'm gonna be ordering a couple of these. Let me delete him as well. File, save as, or yes, save as. So if you have this undo history option checked, your quick saves should save your undo history as well. I just want to save this mannequin file because I will be making some time-lapse stuff later and I use my undo history to create that. If you guys want to know more about creating time lapses, I have a tutorial somewhere. Where's internet's? Somewhere on my YouTube channel under tutorials. That makes sense, doesn't it? Shush. Shush you. It is... Try to find it really fast. This one. If you guys are interested in making some time-lapsey stuff in ZBrush, I'll just really quickly share that. Essentially the quick rundown of the process. These are the type of time lapses that I like making, where the only thing that's moving is the geometry, the actual, here I'll blow that up I guess, the actual camera, right? Scene is not moving at all, just all the geometry. And what do we got? Magikarp, Coughing, Gooby, good old Goobert, and Mojo Jojo. So there's a few examples of those time lapses. And that video just kind of goes through very quickly through the process of how you can set that up. It's really easy. You just have to make sure that you have a file with undo history, like I said. Which is why I saved that out really quick. And I'm just gonna keep that checked while we continue working. So I remeshed this leg. Here's something that I haven't shown off yet. If you're in a situation where you have something and you want to remesh it and get it more clean, more simple, like I've been mentioning, easier to work on, but you're afraid that when you remesh it, you're going to lose some of the form, which I have not in this case. It's retaining that silhouette very well. But if there is a situation like that, what you can do is have two pieces of geometry. So what you would do is the piece that you want to get lower poly, you would duplicate it. You have the lower poly piece here, and I have the other high poly piece here. Make sure that they're the only two visible with the eye icon next to it. I turn on solo mode to make it a little bit easier to see what's going on. And then what you want to do is add a subdivision with Control D, and then go into Project, and click on Project, add a subdivision, Project, and that'll project all that information from the high res onto the low res that you are subdividing. For instance, here is this high res model. If I add a stroke on here, just so you can see another example, I go back to that other geometry and click on Project. There's that stroke from the high res onto the new model. So that's how you would do something like that very quickly. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me fix this little creased up area between the legs. And then I will mirror this leg over to the other side. Probably good. Beautiful. If anything, I could make them a little bit tighter and closer together again. Is the old transpose tool as functional as the 3D gizmo? Yes, it absolutely is. It actually has certain functionality that the 3D gizmo cannot do, and the 3D gizmo has certain functionality that the transpose line cannot do as well. Namely, the 3D gizmo has this little gear icon, which allows you to activate a butt ton of deformers. Whenever I want to activate a deformer, I just click on my 3D gizmo tool real quick and go over to that. The transpose line, though, has a lot of cool secrets that a lot of people that are probably newer to ZBrush don't know about. Let me show a couple of those real quick. So with your transpose line, did you know that you could actually inflate your model and deflate your model very quickly? The way you do that is turn on Move and then right-click within that end circle. Another thing that you can do on the Move option is you can trim a piece of geometry very quickly. So if I wanted to trim a part of that leg, I could just trim that off. This is the trim function. It's found up in your selection brushes up here. There are many different trim brushes that you can play around with. Trim does squash the geometry though. Do keep that in mind. It does not clip it, it does not slice it, it just trims it and presses it all up into the model there. If you have something that is overhanging, like right here, because it's just pushing that all flat up together, we're gonna get a little sliver there that's overhanging because it's all squishing up. There's some other stuff that you can do with the transpose line in terms of like pivots and all sorts of other good stuff, but I won't bore you with all of that. But yeah, there's things that both can and cannot do. I have just been using the transpose line for a long time, and I really like using it. I think it's, with my workflow, it's very intuitive now. At first, not so much. It was kind of hard to get used to, but now I can just, like, very quickly, do some stretching, do some rotations from that pivot point, set up a new pivot point really fast. Like, it's nice. I like it. I didn't always like it though. Procedural Materials, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? No problem, yeah. Hopefully you'll be able to play around with both and figure out what works best for you. I'm gonna try pinching in around here on the back side of the knee a little bit more. Let's see. figure out what we're gonna do with this translation. We got a lot more that we can do here, and a lot more that I would like to do. I'll wait to save that for the next stream, though. So we're getting to a point where we're kind of running out of time. I'm already over. Snuck in a few extra minutes here at the end just because we were a little late starting. For some reason, my broadcasting software just completely fudged on me. It was not working at all. Restarted my computer, nothing. And I had just streamed earlier today, so there shouldn't have been anything wrong. I ended up figuring out what was the problem though. Apparently it's just a common issue that pops up from time to time in OBS. But let's see. Clip squishes and trim deletes and closes holes. Yes, that is correct. I prefer the slice though. For me, slice is multifunctional. You can use the slice to add in edge loops. It can also be nice to manually control how you cut things up. So if I draw a cut line through there, now I can just like split that off into two separate subtools. So now I have two separate pieces, and I can run a close holes operation on that if I need to. I will not do that right now though. But with the slice brush, you can also tell ZBrush, hey, I want to polygroup these two pieces into two separate pieces of, or two separate polygroups, right? So now with that polygroup, I could tell ZBrush, hey, now I want to remesh with keep groups on, and you know, maybe I want to add more slices and more groups through here and everything else, but I don't think we do right now. But I hope tonight has been informative. I hope that my throat doesn't die. I hope that you guys have learned something new, maybe. And I hopefully will see you guys next time I'm streaming, or at some point next time I'm streaming. I always stream on Tuesdays. I'm streaming all December here on the Pixelogic channel at the same time, which is 6 p.m. Eastern US time, Eastern Standard. And then I stream on my channel, which is just twitch.tv/Follygon. I would appreciate you guys coming and saying hello, stopping in, saying hi sometime. I'll grab that real quick, because it's got that pesky little underscore at the end. And I'll just share that in chat real quick. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out. Again, hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and I hope to see you in the next stream. Rude Boy, Procedural Materials. We have to wake up. Thank you everybody for coming in and hanging out. And Lamentio as well. I know I'm gonna see Lamentio tomorrow. Will I be continuing this Android 17 on my channel tomorrow? Absolutely, I will. And then hopefully by the next time we stream, I'm sure we'll be done with this. The blockout that I did on my channel, I think I worked on for like an hour or an hour and a half. So we'll for sure wrap this up tomorrow and do a lot more. But that's going to be all for tonight. We'll see you guys next time. See you guys. Have a great night.